shocker. Minor girl allegedly gang raped by Samajwadi Party Neta and accomplice. Akhilesh Yadav cries foul. BJP delegation visits victim's family. Our big Waqf reform in the offing. A centre is set to overhaul Waqf Act to limit its powers. Waqf may lose to power to claim any land and may have women as members now. Big setback for Aam Aadmi Party top cop, says Delhi LG can appoint MCD alderman, says the LG need not act as per the state government's advice. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin breaks silence on Udayanidhi's promotion as Deputy CM, says chances are strong for him but time isn't ripe yet. Markets tumble globally. US recession fears jolt financial markets from India to Japan to Taiwan. Investors' wealth wiped out. All right, the latest news break that we are continuously following after the turmoil in Bangladesh. You had Sheikh Hasina, who is now the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, touched down at the Hindon Air Base. What we have been given in terms of information, Sheikh Hasina right now yet to deboard from her Bangladesh Air Force jet. No flight plans for Hasina's jet yet. External Affairs Minister Shankar has briefed Prime Minister Modi on the Bangladesh crisis and the urgency with which Sheikh Hasina flew to India. She touched down at the Hindon Air Base and right now is yet to alight from her aircraft. Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi met the External Affairs Minister in Lok Sabha and spoke regarding the developments in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina's son has now demanded fresh elections. Right now, martial law in place where Bangladesh is concerned as an interim government. Listen in.
Law enforcement agency, BGB এবং কি আমাদের মিলিটারির প্রতি আমার আহ্বান যে আপনাদের দায়িত্ব হচ্ছে আমাদের দেশের মানুষকে নিরাপদ রাখা এবং আমাদের দেশকে নিরাপদ রাখা, আমাদের দেশের সংবিধানকে নিরাপদ রাখা, সংবিধানকে রক্ষা করা। তার মানে এক মিনিটের জন্য কোনো অনির্বাচিত সরকার আমাদের ক্ষমতায় আসতে দিবেন না। এটা হচ্ছে আপনাদের দায়িত্ব, কারণ সেইটা হলে আমরা আবার পাকিস্তানের মতন হয়ে যাব। আমাদের এই যে 15 বছরের উন্নয়ন সব শেষ হয়ে যাবে। বাংলাদেশ এর থেকে আর কোনোদিন ফিরে আসবে না। আমিও সেটা চাই না, আপনারাও সেটা চান না। আমি সজীব ওয়াজের জয় যতদিন আমার পক্ষে সম্ভব আমি সেটা হতে দেব না।
Sajeev Wazev, Sheikh Hasina's son, issuing out a statement saying elections need to take place immediately in the state of Bangladesh. Right now, there's martial law and then a government formation will take place. Sheikh Hasina, to recap, has resigned as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The top developments going on in midst of the Bangladesh political crisis. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina landed near Delhi at the Hindon Air Base. Reports suggest she may head to London. What we've been given to understand, Sheikh Hasina has requested the United Kingdom for asylum. The ex-Prime Minister was received by Hindon Air Base Commander Air Commodore Sanjay Chopra. But word coming in, she's yet to alight from her fighter jet. Sheikh Hasina's son, who you just heard, Sajeev Wazev, released a video message blaming protesters for the escalating crisis in Bangladesh. Wazev also called for fresh and fair elections in the country. Sheikh Hasina came to power early this January itself amidst charges by the opposition of rigging the election. The External Affairs Minister Shankar has briefed the Prime Minister earlier today at the Parliament House. Jaishankar shared updates on the political turmoil taking place in Bangladesh with the Prime Minister. Protests, meanwhile, continue to rage in Bangladesh despite the army's appeal to restore law and order. An angry mob has created ruckus inside the Bangladesh parliament as well as the residence of Sheikh Hasina. Looting, arson, you can see these visuals for yourself. Meanwhile, Bangladesh residents in London erupted in celebrations over Sheikh Hasina's resignation as Prime Minister. People took to the streets with the Bangladeshi flag as they cheered and shouted slogans. Lots of anger against the government headed by Sheikh Hasina in the midst of protests which were fueled on the basis of the quota system in the country. Meanwhile, as I speak, viewers, total chaos, turmoil in neighbouring Bangladesh after hundreds were killed, 90 on a single day in Bangladesh. In anti-government protest, Sheikh Hasina quit as the Prime Minister wasn't given much time. In an emergency, has flown to India right now. She is inside her aircraft at the Hindon Air Base. While it's not known if she will stay or leave for London, what we have been given to understand that she sought asylum from the United Kingdom. Her sister lives and resides in the UK. Meanwhile, back in Bangladesh, protesters have laid total siege to the capital, Dhaka. Here's the report, more details.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina leaving the capital Dhaka in the face of mass protest, demanding her resignation. Sources say Hasina left Ganabhavan, her official residence, with her sister Rehana for a safer place in Mi-17 chopper. Hasina first flew to Kurmitola and then took a Bangladesh Air Force C-130J Hercules to fly out of Bangladesh. Moments after, celebrations erupted on the streets of Dhaka.
বাংলাদেশ এই 14 বছর পর আবার 16 বছর পর আবার স্বাধীন হলো।
আমরা সংগ্রাম করে শুধু রেখে রাখবো না, তাদের স্থান আমাদের বুকে। যে ছাত্র ভাইরা আমাদের শহীদ হয়েছে তাদের স্থান আমাদের কলজার ভিতরে।
আমাদের আজকে খুব ভালো লাগছে, আমাদের মনে হচ্ছে যে আমরা আবার একটা দেশ স্বাধীন করলাম, সেজন্য আমরা এসেছি। আমরা সবাই খুব খুব খুশি। আমি আমার হাজবেন্ড আমরা রোজা আছি, আজকে রোজা আছি, আল্লাহর কাছে দোয়া চেয়েছি।
Protesters vandalized the statue of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founder of Bangladesh and Sheikh Hasina's father. A huge crowd even stormed the Prime Minister's residence. They walked through the grounds of Sheikh Hasina's residence, boating through ponds and water bodies, cheered with chairs and other furniture, chilled on the bed, looted memorabilia and utensils, and hugged men in uniform. Next, the protesters lay siege to the Bangladeshi parliament. Army Chief General Waqaruzzzaman announced in a television address that with Hasina leaving the country, an interim government would be formed.
আমরা এখন মহামান্য রাষ্ট্রপতির কাছে যাব যে এই ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্মের ব্যাপারে ওনার সাথে আলাপ আলোচনা করে আমরা একটা ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্ম করে দেশ পরিচালনা করব।
Student activists had called for a march to the capital Dhaka on Monday in defiance of a nationwide curfew to press Hasina to resign. A day after deadly clashes across the country killed nearly 100 people. About 150 people have been killed in protests last month, after student groups demanded scrapping of a controversial quota system in government jobs. Bureau Report, India Today.
Scenes we'd seen not so far back in neighbouring Sri Lanka. There, this, viewers, was a protest at the back of the quota system in the country of Bangladesh, which turned into a massive movement fueled by anger of students. Sheikh Hasina right now no longer, to recap, as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, has resigned. Right now she's still inside that fighter jet that landed at the Hindon Air Base. We're going to get you the very latest and also what it really means for our country, India, to not have what has been looked like a friendly head of state, Sheikh Hasina, in Bangladesh. Joining me, Geeta Mohan, Executive Editor, National Bureau, India Today TV, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Chief of Staff, 14 Corps and DG Infantry, Indian Army, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF, Strategic Affairs Expert, Rajiv Dogra, former Consulate General to Pakistan, Ashok Sajjanhar, former Indian diplomat. I want to cut across to my colleague Geeta first on exactly what's going on, Geeta. At the Hindon Air Base, word coming in that Sheikh Hasina has yet to alight from the aircraft or the fighter jet she's flown in. What are you picking up? Is she leaving for London? What's the latest information?
Well, it was supposed to be a refueling stopover, is also one where from Bangladesh they did not really have to stop in Delhi or in India for refueling. The fact that it is happening here and the fact that she's here, I'm sure there will be engagement and contact with the officials, high-level officials in India. But again, technically, if you see, she's not in Palam Technical, she's in Hindon Air Base, which is a distance away. So clearly there is a reason why she's still inside, is because the officials who are to meet her might not be there yet, one, and secondly, we do not know whether if she already has her clearances for London or not. The manner in which Sheikh Hasina and Sheikh Rahana Preeti left Bangladesh was sudden. The situation had completely turned volatile suddenly and they had to leave. In fact, she was to record a statement and an address to the nation and she couldn't even do that. Before that, she had to leave her official residence, which is Gana Bhavan. So we do know that the situation was quite tricky. It was very volatile. And so we do not know whether she had all the permissions. She's left her country. She's right now in New Delhi. We'll have to wait and see whether she's going to go ahead immediately after, because her final destination, as was told earlier, is London. So let's see whether she's going to leave soon or whether she's going to wait a while, depending on the clearances from London as well.
Geeta, it's going to be a tightrope walk for us. What's really going on in the Ministry of External Affairs? Because Sheikh Hasina, to say it very clearly, has been the closest geopolitical partner in the region for India. And not having her in the saddle in Bangladesh would be very, very detrimental. How are we approaching the situation right now?
Well, Preeti, it is going to be very, very serious in terms of the situation and how things are panning out. We are getting some information that's coming in that sources telling India Today that National Security Advisor, which is what we were saying earlier also, has in fact met the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. That's news just coming in. It's a very important piece of information, Preeti. This is breaking news at this point in time. This is a very important piece of information because when it comes to the security angle, the security situation, it's the National Security Advisor, N.S.A. Doval, who takes control and has a handle on things. And for them, they have been monitoring the situation in Bangladesh continuously, given that there are many Indians there. But to your larger question right now on how it's going to impact India, it's going to impact India in a very bad way. This is a major blow for India because a major partner has been ousted from a country that is a near neighbor, and India requires that neighbor to be stable and to be pro-India for the border situation and the security at the border between India and Bangladesh to remain safe and secure. And we've experienced that during Khaleda Zia government, how difficult the borders and become and how terrorism really takes roots. Sheikh Hasina in the 15 years managed to do away with that, and India and Bangladesh really forged a very important, strong partnership. That
Geeta,
And
stay with me. That's what we're going to quickly recap for our viewers right now. The NSA, Ajit Doval, has met Sheikh Hasina at the Hindon Air Base. He's gone inside the aircraft where Sheikh Hasina is. She's yet to alight from the aircraft, and he has gone ahead and met Sheikh Hasina. There will be a course of action. It's going to be a tightrope walk for India, especially Hasina has been India's closest geopolitical partner in this region, and the current political turmoil in the country of Bangladesh doesn't augur well for India. India has trusted her. India has invested a great deal in the regime of Sheikh Hasina, and with her gone, now this could practically mean trouble, at least like Geeta was elucidating, where India comes into question, because now most of the neighbors where India is in question are hostile to the country. What does this mean for India? We're going to go in deeper. Mind you, just a tidbit, 49 years ago, Sheikh Hasina had to flee Bangladesh for the first time under a coup, and in that coup she lost most of her family, and now, of course, 49 years later, it's come full circle. Sheikh Hasina, once again, in volatile, emergency-like situation, had to immediately flee the country she was the Prime Minister of. She came to power this January in an election which could be said was highly debatable. The opposition charged her of rigging. But Rajiv Dogra, to bring you in on this, how do you read the current situation and the current dynamics? Because number one, India would really not want her to stay, but she's been the closest ally where India comes into question. How do you think we're going to approach the situation?
There are different angles to it. Stop me when you think I'm digressing or going on for too long. But to start with, this was a deja vu in slow motion which was going to happen. If you see the commentary internationally about Bangladesh over the last 2-3 years, there were 2 or 3 constant refrains that she's autocratic, she's lost touch with the ground realities, the economy is drifting down, and corruption is at an all-time high. Just to give you one example, a nuclear plant which Bangladesh had signed with Russia was going to cost them $13 billion. A similar sized nuclear plant which India had signed with Russia had cost us $3.5 billion. So the level of corruption was humongous. The second thing is that they were scripted to come in large numbers because of a definite design by the anti-Sheikh Hasina political parties in Bangladesh, but also by external powers. And by external powers, I principally mean Pakistan, supported to some extent by China. So what it means for India, that was your question, is that we already have a less than friendly neighbor to our north, a less than friendly neighbor to our west. Now we have an uncertain neighbor to our east. So it is going to mean a lot of worries to India till the situation stabilizes in Bangladesh, and that is a big if.
Well, yeah, you're right, because it doesn't seem to happen anytime or happening anytime soon. But, Sushant Sareen, whatever the narrative has been built around Sheikh Hasina and her political outfit, that aside, of her being autocratic, authoritarian, corrupt. But for India, this doesn't augur well at all, because we've economically invested in Bangladesh. She's been one of our closest ally in the area. And now India would be more worried about on who comes next.
Yeah, I think there'll be some serious concerns about what's going to happen next, and nobody really knows. There's an interim government of sorts that's been formed. Will that government be acceptable to the people who are agitating on the streets? We don't know. Will this government last for some time, or will it be ousted very soon? We don't know. Will there be new elections, or will the army take over? Nothing is very clear. And frankly, it's not just about the business relationship and the investments we have made, because those are just as profitable for Bangladesh. After all, Bangladesh has gained a lot from the kind of trade arrangements we have with them and the liberalization that has happened. But even otherwise, I think there's a security angle to what's happening in Bangladesh from an Indian point of view. The old regime before Sheikh Hasina used to pander to separatist groups in India, used to give sanctuary to terrorists, and carry out all kinds of nefarious activities in India, despite assurances and promises by people like Tariq Rahman and others, who is the BNP chief's son. So you had a problem even back then. But I think Ambassador Dogra is quite right. We have now a third front of sorts which might be opening up in Bangladesh, and that's a very serious security challenge to us. And then, Preeti, let's not ignore the possibility, very real, because we are already getting reports of massive pogroms sorts taking place against the Hindu community out there. And there's some very disturbing videos doing the rounds. And frankly, if there is a massive exodus of the Hindu community into India, then it creates even more problems. It creates a communal tension within India. It creates a problem of how are you going to accommodate the refugees. It's a nightmare in the making. So I think there will be a lot of concerns about what's happening. But again, let's also not forget two things. One, we have had Bangladesh in turmoil routinely. Every 5, 7, 10 years, there is a massive upsurge which takes place in Bangladesh. It happened against Sheikh Mujib, happened against Irshad, it has happened subsequently. So Bangladesh has a habit of going into these convulsions and then coming out of it. Things quite the same.
Fair point. But since 2001, at least, we've had somebody in the saddle. 2009, we've had somebody in the saddle there who at least we trusted and built a relationship with, which was in the form of Sheikh Hasina. And, Ashok Sajjanhar, I want to bring you on this, because who next? The army says their, martial law right now till an interim government is in place, till we don't know whether their elections are going to take place. But the other powerful party is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And India has always had a troubled relationship with the BNP. They've been known to be close to China. And if the BNP comes in, India wouldn't really want that.
No, absolutely. Preeti, you're very right. BNP has been close to China, but even more so, it has been close to Pakistan. I remember when I used to be there, in the 90s, and Begum Khalida Zia was at the helm of affairs. And our access to the echelons of power used to be very, very limited. And that is because, the Pakistani elements, the ISI, etc., they were there in full strength. And it was there that, safe havens were being provided to people who were acting against India in the northeast. It's only after Sheikh Hasina came that, there was a clamp down on such elements. So, what the previous two panelists have said, I quite agree with that this is going to be a difficult time. This is going to be an uncertain time. But I think we'll really have to, take it forward one step at a time. I think right now the problem would be basically to ensure, number one, whoever are the Indian students, businessmen, citizens who are there, that they are able to come out. They are, there is security and safety for them. Second is, as far as the Hindu elements there are concerned, is there going to be a backlash against them, as we have been hearing, and to make sure that this is, this is controlled and this is contained to the maximum extent possible.
All right, I'm going to go into a break, but I'm going to quickly pull in our two other guests who've joined us. I have General Sanjay Kulkarni as well, and Veena Sikri, a former Indian diplomat who served at the Indian High Commission in Bangladesh. Veena Sikri, how worried are you, especially vis-a-vis India, on what's going on in Bangladesh?
Look, first we have to understand clearly what is going on in Bangladesh. I think we worry or don't worry as we see the situation evolve. And I must say that we have to also recognize very clearly that although this started as a students' protest movement, as a quota reform movement, what has been happening over the last few days is nothing to do with the students' protests. These protesters are some other people. And today to see, in the Gana Bhavan and others, somebody's lying on the sofa, somebody's lying on the bed, to see the statue of the father of the nation being vandalized, to see the home, Dhanmandi 32, the home where Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated, to see that being set on fire. Who are these people? This seems to be definitely the hand of the Jamaat-e-Islami, because they are trying to wipe out the memory of anything to do with the Awami League and the memory of that. So this is some factor that we have to take on board as to what is happening. And that is why it is very important that stability returns to Bangladesh. These protesters, I don't call them the student movement at all. The quota reform movement ended when the Supreme Court gave its judgment and said that yes, the quotas will only be for 5% for the children of the freedom fighters, and the others will be just 2%. So after that, because there had been this clash between the Awami League student wing, Chhatra League, between the Shibir, the Jamaat-e-Islami student wing, and the BNP student wing, you saw this huge clash on the road. That's what destroyed all the infrastructure. We saw the destruction of highways, of the Bangladesh television, of the national data center, of flyovers, all kinds. So, this is something else. The students would never do it. They are very patriotic. I don't see the students as, defacing the statue of Sheikh Mujib. Now, the interim government, the army has come in to bring in stability. We saw the same situation in 2007, 2008, when there was the army-backed caretaker government for 2 years. And it was the people who wanted to go back to elections. It was the people who said, we don't want an army-led government. And the UN said, if you continue with the government, we're going to make sure you don't take part in UN peacekeeping operations. The army went back to the barracks, but they have very big force for stability. When the situation went out of control, because the curfew was ordered yesterday, still the people came out on the streets today, and there were 3 lakhs of people on the streets in Dhaka. The army took over. Sheikh Hasina went to meet the president. She resigned, and the army has said that the chief of army staff, Wakruzaman, has said in a press conference he's trying to form an interim government. 2 or 3 lists are floating around saying who is going to be in the interim government.
Right.
The chief of army staff has said he will go to the president and get the interim government approved. The first thing is the army chief himself said is to get the protesters off the streets, to get stability. India's keenest interest in Bangladesh is for stability, it is for democracy, and it is for continued development.
Well, the army, where Bangladesh is concerned, has said no force be used against the protesters. Just coming back to you, Ms. Sikri, I just want to quickly pull in General Kulkarni as well, who's been patiently waiting. But General Kulkarni, these are times like this where you actually look within, because in the region, these visuals, unfortunately, are not new. We've seen them in Sri Lanka. We've seen the Corps Commander's house being ransacked where Pakistan is concerned. We've seen what's gone down in Myanmar. And strangely, India right in the middle, where at least we still have a robust democracy, where the army still stays in the barracks.
Preeti, no doubt about it. India is a robust democracy, and that the armed forces of India are apolitical. There is just no denying the fact. But what happened in Bangladesh happened, if you look back, 15th of August 1975, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, where we had to send a chopper to rescue and whatever we could do to help them. Today, the 5th of August 2024, you find us propping up. Of course, she used her own helicopter to come to Tripura, and then now she's been flown into Hindon. But look at it, what's happening in Bangladesh is very, very worrisome. They're saying, kahin pe nigahein, kahin pe nishana. The target is India. There's a narrative which is working well. It's an ISI, like what Mr. Sajana said, which are deep inroads, despite what we've done in Bangladesh, where the Awami League is indeed grateful and finds it, and we should have done what we did to help liberate Bangladesh from Pakistan. Despite millions of women being raped in Bangladesh, you see the hold of ISI. You see the Jamaat-e-Islami keeping a tight control over the nefarious designs and activities in Bangladesh. This is what is worrisome. See the way the Chinese are going about it, whether it's having ports there, placing submarines there, giving military equipment to the Bangladesh army is concerned. Look at the way United States does what it does in Bangladesh. All this was worrisome. We knew it was coming, but we always expected someone which is, has good relations with India, definitely help. Otherwise, we have a Siliguri corridor, we have the kind of northeast turmoil, we see all of it, and now we have in midst of it Bangladesh. Already what's happening in Myanmar, we know. The influx from Myanmar into Manipur, we know. All of it now going to happen in Bangladesh, we know. We know what's happened in Rohingyas, how they were pushed, and how ISI was involved in pushing them. Absolutely worrisome. We are in thick of a problem, and you see this is orchestrated, something like color revolution. You see the kind of things happening the world over, similar kind of things happening. You see these kind of things are very, very worrisome. We have to be very, very careful, very watchful. We have to seal our borders, ensure that the refugees don't start making influx into India. Of course, there are the Hindus in Bangladesh are into trouble. Their houses are being burned.
Right.
You find Awami League houses, offices being burned. All this is something which we have.
Well, you
really
are
to be
right,
worried
because
about.
one really does
Now, you have
tend to wonder
voices.
what really is going on, because is this just students' anger, and will students actually pull down the statue of a man? Disregard right now in terms of the corruption charges, the authoritarian charges on his daughter, but somebody who was technically the father of the country, and bring his statue down. And it's interesting because 49 years ago, the same man was killed, and that's the time when Sheikh Hasina flew in left the country in a coup where Bangladesh was concerned, that wiped out mostly entirely her entire family. We're going to come right back, a quick break. Do stay with us. We're going to get you the latest right now. What we are getting in, Sheikh Hasina is still in that fighter jet that flew in to the Hindon Air Base in India. We'll get you more. Stay with us.
To say hello, I'm so fly. You took a nosedive. Careful when you play on my level. For you it's so. Hey, hello.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Flip the script.
Hello, Moto.
एक दोस्त है जिससे बात किए बिना हम रह नहीं सकते। बातें घंटों की हों या कुछ सेकंड्स की। कुछ बातें दूर से हो जाती हैं और कुछ नजदीक आके। दोस्त से बात करो जब दिल घबराए या जब दिल धूम मचाए। ये दोस्त हमेशा हमारी बात सुनता है, सोमवार हो या रविवार हो या कोई त्योहार हो, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे अच्छा दोस्त भगवान ही तो है।
मंगलती, दिल से करो बात भगवान के साथ।
The grandest stage.
The ultimate challenge.
Where dreams are made and legends are born.
The pinnacle of sportsmanship.
Where new heroes will rise and old records will fall.
As the Olympic journey begins, our nation unites in a single resounding cheer. Go India, go for glory.
Go India, go for glory. Only on India Today. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
To say hello, I'm so fly. You took a nosedive. Careful when you play on my level. For you it's so. Hey, hello.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Flip the script.
Hello, Moto.
एक दोस्त है जिससे बात किए बिना हम रह नहीं सकते। बातें घंटों की हों या कुछ सेकंड्स की, कुछ बातें दूर से हो जाती हैं और कुछ नजदीक आके। दोस्त से बात करो जब दिल घबराए या जब दिल धूम मचाए। ये दोस्त हमेशा हमारी बात सुनता है, सोमवार हो या रविवार हो या कोई त्योहार हो, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे अच्छा दोस्त भगवान ही तो है।
मंगल दी, दिल से करो बात भगवान के साथ।
Powered by Orient Electric. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com. हर फैमिली होगी इंश्योर्ड. Co-powered by Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute. LIC, जिंदगी के साथ भी, जिंदगी के बाद भी.
Welcome back. A quick recap. Bangladesh has plunged into complete political chaos and anarchy on the streets. The Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned. She is right now in an aircraft, a fighter jet at the Hindon Air Base in India. As I speak, the NSA has gone in to meet her. Ajit Doval is meeting Sheikh Hasina. What it means for India and especially how India deals with this situation in the current context. Let's quickly cut across to our guests. I have Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat, served as the Indian High Commissioner in Bangladesh. We also have with us Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF Strategic Affairs Expert, Rajiv Dogra, former Consul General to Pakistan, Ashok Sajanhar, former Indian diplomat. Veena Sikri, it'd be, for India, it's a tightrope walk on how it deals with the current situation. India would definitely won't want Sheikh Hasina to remain in the country, especially as, it's earned itself quite a bit of anger of the opposition where Bangladesh is concerned with, always backing Sheikh Hasina. How do you see India dealing with the situation?
Well, I think first and foremost, this depends on the wishes of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina herself. I do not know as yet of any request from Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina that she would like to stay in India. Maybe, as you have said, as you have pointed out, there are very important meetings going on at Hindon Air Base where National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is meeting her, and obviously political discussions are being held. So whether such a formal request has been received, this is not in our information yet. There was news that her plane might be going to London, it might be going to Belarus. This is a very, very
So what we do know, Ms. Sikri, is the fact that Sheikh Hasina has requested for asylum in the United Kingdom as her sister resides there.
Yes, that is right. We have that request and there is no response yet. We do not know whether that is there. But naturally, because her sister lives there and her sister is with her, I think, on this plane, because she arrived in Dhaka just 2 or 3 days ago from London. So I think that together in this thing. So obviously, for her, a natural would be to go back to her home there and take her sister with her. So I think this is a very, very evolving situation. And I think certainly, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, we are following what's evolving there as well. We want stability to return within Bangladesh. And whether in response to the Chief of Army Staff's press conference, the protesters are now leaving the streets of Dhaka, this is the information that we need from there. Whether it's stabilizing. I know we see these horrible visuals you're showing of taking over residential. It reminds us of what happened in Sri Lanka just ever so recently.
Or and Pakistan, even when the Corps commanders' houses were ransacked.
They were burnt over there. So this seems to be a modus operandi that has come in to our neighborhood, and this kind of a destruction and lack of stability that is being introduced into our neighborhood. It is very worrisome for us, and certainly we will.
Right, Rajiv Dogra, are we looking now at least at a period of great instability where Bangladesh is concerned, as at least the students who were leading the process, the protest, the movement, have outrightly rejected military rule, and as I speak, there is martial rule in Bangladesh.
Well, you are right. There is reason to apprehend some amount of insecurity, instability in Bangladesh. And as General Kulkarni pointed out, there is also reason for us to be concerned about the effect it has, especially on our northeast, from various directions, but mostly the security angle. But coming to Bangladesh itself, I see army getting hold of things in the days to come. And I will also see an extended period of martial law. Whatever may be our wishes, whatever may be our hopes, they do not matter very much in the internal politics or internal dynamics of Bangladesh in the phase it is entering now. And that phase is inimical to India and its interests, because that phase has been very carefully scripted over the last few weeks. You remember recently, in recent past, Sheikh Hasina had a run-in with the army. That was somehow suppressed. Then the army chief whom she is appointed only a month and a half back is related to her. Yet he gave her 45 minutes notice, according to one report, to quit. And then he arranged her safe passage out of Bangladesh. So the same army chief who, if you look at his career profile, has had appointments where he could dispense favor to officers. So he is in a comfortable position where he knows that he controls the loyalties to him of senior army officers. So I don't think he's going to give up that position of comfort very early. Now, what happens to India-Bangladesh relations? That is the big if and whether they will improve. That should preoccupy us in the coming days and weeks to come, because I don't see Bangladeshis who are now going to be connected with the government in one way or the other, or going to control the streets in one way or the other, are going to be very sympathetic to India.
Or is there going to be a clear tilt towards China and Pakistan, which anyway has historic distrust between India? But Sushant Sareen, do you concur with what we can expect in Bangladesh with what Mr. Rajiv Dogra said? Because at least 4 or 5 main leading students group have come out and completely rejected martial law. And that's what is in place right now. Do you see a conflict taking place, more instability? Or do you think it's all part of a larger plan?
Preeti, I think it would be incorrect to call what exists right now in Bangladesh as martial law. Martial law has a completely different connotation. Yes, the military is in control. Yes, the military is trying to set up an interim government. But to call that martial law, I think would be a gross misrepresentation of what is the situation. Because martial law would mean that the army is taking over completely. The army officers are calling all the shots. The entire civil administration is working under the army.
But who is calling the shots then, Sushant Sareen, right now?
No, I think what they're trying to do right now, look, right now it's too much of flux. But what the army claims to be wanting to do is setting up an interim government, which is predominantly made up of civilians, at least the names that are doing the rounds. There are a few retired army officers, but of course the army would be underpinning this, giving it the support. This government cannot last without the army support. So yes, it's a kind of an interim arrangement of the sorts the caretaker governments used to happen, or as Ambassador Sikri was talking about, what happened in 2007, 2008, something similar to that. So I wouldn't call it martial law, number one. Number two, my apprehension is that whatever interim government that the army sets up, partly for reasons that is the army chief's position actually above board. Will the people be ready to go along with this army chief considering his links with Sheikh Hasina? I don't know. I'm just speculating. But even if that was to happen, will they accept whichever interim government is set up? That will depend a lot also on the opposition parties. What does the Jamaat say? What does the BNP say? What do the many other smaller Islamist parties which have a street presence, what do they say? So I think there is no clarity on how things are likely to unfold in the hours and days ahead. Once that situation becomes clear, we can have some idea on what to expect coming from Bangladesh. As of now, there's only bad news coming.
Ashok Sajanhar, Rajiv Dogra said the army is not going to let go. You have Sushant Sareen state that far from martial law, it's a state of flux. How do you read the current context with what is really going on? Because as I speak, 4-5 major students group have come out and outrightly rejected the army. How are you going to put together an interim government which would be acceptable to the people who spearheaded this movement?
Yeah, so, the way I look at it is, however much the army might wish to stay, and there might be some sort of elements there, including the chief, who might wish to stay because, getting power in your hand and then giving it up voluntarily is, does not come easily to people. But I think there is going to be a huge lot of pressure on the army that they cannot stick with power for a very long time. And, whatever reports seem to be coming out at this moment is that after the meeting in with the president today later, there is going to be an interim government that is going to be sworn in tomorrow morning. And that is going to be comprised of basically, technocrats and, whether it is retired senior government officers, academics, businessmen, journalists, etc., etc. They are not going to be comprised of people from any of the political parties. And then they have a mandate of holding the elections within the next 3 months. Now, I put to you that if the politicians are not a part of this interim government, of course, they will be interested that the elections take place as soon as possible. So I think if this is the sort of plan A that is to be followed, then there would be some sort of elections, some sort of regular government that would come into position. But yes, there is a lot of uncertainty because, again, these elements, Preeti, who are on the roads, they are not students by any stretch of imagination.
You see a large...
the whole movement has been hijacked. Whole movement has been hijacked.
Exactly what Veena Sikri said earlier on. I'm going to get you, Ms. Sikri, again, but I want to get a quick update from my colleague Geeta Mohan, our External Affairs editor. Geeta, what are you hearing from the ministry right now? What's the latest?
Well, the latest that's coming in is that there's a safe house within the Hindon Air Base, which is where Sheikh Hasina is going to be till the time there's clarity on her forward movement, onward journey, because we were told that it is going to be London, Preeti. As of now, we do not know, but a lot of the senior leadership, including particularly National Security Advisor Doval, has met with the former Prime Minister. We're also given to understand that there are others who have also met her, which includes Western Air Command Chief Air Marshal PM Sinha. Also, the fact that there are guard commandos now who have taken over the entire Hindon Air Base of the IAF and are guarding that entire safe house where former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is going to be. So that's the latest that's coming in, which means there is no clarity, Preeti, as of now, as to where is Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina headed or whether she'd be leaving anytime soon or not. There are reports that are coming in again completely unconfirmed on whether if there's clearance from the United Kingdom or not, should she want to go to London. So this all happened, like I said last time when we were having a conversation, this happened so last minute that there was no time for preparation or to prepare. Although we're also given to understand that there was a meeting at around 12 o'clock with all our top brass, top leadership, which includes the Army, National Security Advisor, the External Affairs Minister, with the Prime Minister, to discuss the situation that's happening in Bangladesh. They knew exactly what they were to do when she flew out of Bangladesh, and around 5 p.m. or post 5 p.m. When her aircraft landed, National Security Advisor Doval was on his way to the Hindon Air Base. So there was absolute coordination between New Delhi and Dhaka, especially the Indian mission there, on how to go about things, but no clarity from where it's headed from here on, where Sheikh Hasina is at Hindon Air Base.
All right, Veena Sikri, to give you the last final word on this, we've discussed at length on what possibly it means for India, and sadly not good things in the offing at least. But what does it mean, for Bangladesh, Veena Sikri? Because while there might be these, not just students anymore, but there have been a few organic student groups and quite a bit of them who've been attached to this. And they've outrightly rejected at least what the current formulation that is being offered. How do you see a huge span of instability for Bangladesh?
This was the news coming in when the Chief of Army Staff gave his press conference at 4 o'clock, that he said he'd met the political parties, but there was no word from him on whether he had met any of these students' organizers. Now, when you're saying that you've heard that the interim government or the statement by the Chief of Army Staff has been rejected, who has rejected it? Is it the students' organizers? I must tell you that in this entire process of the students' protest in Bangladesh, there is not a united hierarchy of the so-called student groups. There were coordinators of different groups of students, sometimes belonging to different universities, sometimes even within one university there'd be more than one group. So actually, the question when you say that who has rejected this proposal of the interim government, it seems to me, could this be the protesters, and are these protesters in the form of the representative of more of Jamaat-e-Islami than anybody else? So I think we have to look into it a little carefully to see whether who it is that is rejecting the proposal of the Chief of Army Staff.
So you're reading a whole different picture behind this.
Yes, because as I said, the Chief of Army Staff's objective is to get the protesters off the streets. Now, are they going to be off the streets or not? From the visuals you are showing, it doesn't seem that they are off the streets.
No, it's a free-for-all right now.
Yeah, that's right. It's a free-for-all. I know if they accept, if there is pressure, but then maybe if it is the Jamaat-e-Islami, they will want more representation from their side. There's going to be a struggle of that kind. Normally, the classical caretaker government or interim government approach in Bangladesh has been to appoint senior civil society representatives, lawyers or former army people, or former election commissioners or former ambassadors. There are all these such names in the list, but whether it is acceptable, whether it's going to be able to present this is a big question mark. We have two big points of uncertainty. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, former Prime Minister of Hindon, and also there in Bangladesh.
Well, two big points of instability in Bangladesh, and of course where India is concerned, where we now look at a very different geopolitical order, at least in the subcontinent. I appreciate all four of you for joining us. Thank you. We're going to keep the spotlight on the latest developments coming in. Latest, of course, is that there is a safe house that has been created at the Hindon Air Base for Sheikh Hasina. Will she move on there for London? But we do know that she has requested asylum from the United Kingdom. Yet to hear from it. For now, this is where it stands, in a complete state of flux. A quick break. Stay with us. Up next, Rahul Kanwal takes it further.
Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hello, I am Aaj Tak's AI anchor Sana. Today's top headlines are brought to you by Motorola. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigns. The efforts of the interim government intensified. The army chief appealed to maintain peace. In Bangladesh, police were removed and an army was deployed across the country. Supreme Court notice to Delhi coaching centers. The Supreme Court criticized Delhi coaching centers for posing a risk to students and issued a notice to ensure safety rules. The court also said that the deaths of 3 IS aspirants at a Delhi coaching center were a wake-up call. The Delhi High Court dismissed Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's plea for bail in the liquor policy scam case, allowing him to file a regular appeal. His lawyer called the arrest an assurance arrest, but the CBI opposed this, saying there was evidence of his involvement in the scam. Kejriwal was arrested in June and granted interim bail in a related money laundering case. Stay tuned to Aaj Tak for the latest top news from India and around the world. Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 34 and minimum 27 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 29 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 34 and minimum 27 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 22 degrees. Chennai, maximum 33 and minimum 24 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 31 and minimum 23 degrees.
हमको बीजेपी की आरएसएस की नियत में ही खोट लगती है। इनको हमारी हर चीज से नफरत है। आप देख लीजिए, हमारी मस्जिद से नफरत, नमाज से नफरत, मदरसे से नफरत, हिजाब से नफरत, अब ये वक्फ को लेके आ गए लोग। अरे वक्फ का एक्ट 1995 एग्जिस्टेंस में है, 2013 में उसमें अमेंडमेंट हो चुका है, मगर फिर भी इनको अमेंडमेंट ला के इनकी नीयत एक है कि किसी भी तरह से ये जो वक्फ की इतनी सारी प्रॉपर्टी है मुसलमानों की, उसको कम कर दिया जाए, उसको हासिल कर लिया जाए। अरे ये वक्फ की प्रॉपर्टी है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा वंस अ वक्फ ऑलवेज अ वक्फ।
क्या मुसलमान भाई आपने इतने नादान समझ रखे हैं कि अपना हित अनहित नहीं समझते? भाजपा ने अपने स्पोक्स पर्सन बना करके रखे हैं और उसके लिए उनको कीमत अदा की जाती है। जो न्यूट्रल स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं, इससे संबंधित पक्ष हैं, उनसे केंद्र सरकार को बातचीत करनी चाहिए। यदि उनकी सहमति है तो ऐसे बिल आते रहते हैं जिसमें समय समय पर सुधार होते रहते हैं, लेकिन यदि वो सहमति नहीं है तो एक बात केंद्र सरकार को ध्यान रखनी चाहिए कि पहले ही आपने समाज को बहुत बांट दिया है, आप उसको और बांटने का प्रयास मत करिए।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Growing Legacies. Co-presented by Club Prime, Raho Befikar. Co-presented by New Seltos with Kia Connect. Tech is now badass. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com. Har family hogi insured. Co-powered by Sansar, a D-Decor brand. Live consciously.
Good evening and welcome. You're watching the news track. I'm Rahul Kamal. It's been a tumultuous day for South Asian politics. What does the coup against Sheikh Hasina mean for Bangladesh? What are the implications for India and what happens next? That's my top focus on the news track tonight.
Massive crisis erupts in Bangladesh. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina flees for her life. Prime Minister's house swarmed by protesters. Army signals interim Bangla government. Hasina flees to India, suspense brews. Biggest flashpoint at India's door. The big focus on News Track.
Here's a look at the headlines I'm tracking tonight. Bangladesh plunges into chaos as Sheikh Hasina resigns and flees. She's currently at the Hindon Air Base near Delhi. Protesters storm her official residence and the Bangladeshi parliament. India keeps a close eye on developments in Bangladesh. NSA Doval meets Sheikh Hasina at the Hindon Air Base. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar briefs Prime Minister Modi on the crisis. Centre set to overhaul the Waqf Act to limit its powers. Waqf Board may lose power to claim any land and may have women as members.